I'm going to go share this in a couple of places. So let me just say hello, everybody. Another episode of Miracles, Magic, and Coffee. I'm just like so blessed. It's like so awesome. I'm talking to Leslie Platner, an amazing therapist. And we had an idea. She had the idea actually a week ago, and she did very well with it. I wouldn't say I completely failed at it, but I kind of didn't do it as much as I said I was going to. But we're going to talk about that, and I want to going to start with a story, and then we're going to talk to Leslie and get some ideas around these things. So, years ago, there was a football team, the San Francisco 49ers, that, and I read this in a Ryan Holiday book, I think, but I also watch football. I love football. And they were 2-14, so 2 wins, 14 losses. And so they hired Bill Walsh, this coach who had a big winning success rate, like big winning coach. And they hired him, paid him good money, and he brought in all these systems, and he put all these systems in place. And then that next season they went 2-14. So they lost the same amount, lost 14 games, and he almost thought of quitting. He was like going to leave, and so just to give you a little, so that line you see coming down in Leslie's into Leslie's head is a message from God. See that? So that's coming in. So we're going to get some direct access in just a little bit. So, but then the next year they went 6 and 6 and whatever it was, 6 and 10, or it might have been 4 and 12. They didn't do very well again, and but they kept doing the systems that he knew would work. And then they went ahead and won the Super Bowl, and then they had a little glitch because they kind of lost track of some of their successful actions, and then they came back and they won the Super Bowl again, and they were a dynasty. And so a week ago, Leslie and I, she came up with an idea like, we're both matrix energetics practitioners, and if you don't know what that is, reach out to us. It's quite amazing, but there's ways to play in alternate universes. And so she thought, well, how about if we pop into a different alternate universe every morning, and let's see what's different in our world. And something did happen different in my world, even though I only did it about 3 times, but Leslie did it every day. So we're going to talk about matrix energetics and the idea of winning, and can winners who get stuck, can they win again? And people that maybe feel like they're not winners and life just sucks and they're just not getting any traction, can you pop into a new reality? Or if you're just kind of stuck right now and you had a good life, but it's kind of tough right now, we're going to play with all sorts of ideas. So I want to bring Leslie Platner on and just say hello. And if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey of healing, and because I know you started off as a nurse, and there's a story of like what happened. How did a nurse start doing healing work? And tell us a little bit about what you're up to.
Yeah, well, my journey in healing has felt guided by strange things. Like when I was a teenager and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to go to college for, I fell and hit my head and had a seizure, and
wow.
I fell off my brother's bike. And when they were wheeling me down on a gurney into the hospital, I thought, I'll be a nurse. And I had never had any desire to be a nurse at all. And I didn't like science really. And then I loved it. I loved the science of nursing. And then I didn't like nursing all that much in the hospital, though I worked in Santa Barbara, and it was a 500-bed hospital, and people were miserable.
Wow.
And then at another
who was miserable? The therapists were miserable, or the
everybody, nurses, doctors, staff, everybody was just miserable. It was awful. Just, yeah, not good administration, I guess. And then I worked in a tiny hospital of 25 beds, which I loved. And I always wanted to be one of the nurses that learns all the new stuff and teaches people, and the in-service nurses. Wow. And then kind of one of those strange things, I went overseas and came back, and I wasn't doing nursing yet and had to get my CEUs. And in the meantime, I was arguing with my friend about homeopathy, which I thought was really stupid. And
wow.
then I really thought it was stupid. And like, how could you not give antibiotics if your kid has strep throat, And then out of just desperation, when I couldn't use any drugs, I had horrendous eczema on my hands. So out of desperation, because I was nursing a baby, I couldn't use cortisone. And I went to a homeopath, and the first 2 remedies did nothing. And the third one was absolutely miraculous, just completely miraculous. It cleared up the eczema in 2 weeks, and my stomach stopped hurting, and I started being a nervous mom. I had 3 kids, and one of my kids was always having seizures, and I was a mess. Anyway, so then I didn't ever go back into nursing. I went and studied homeopathy, and but I had kids, and then my daughter had kids really young, and so I just did it kind of part-time. And then when I really started focusing on it, then I heard about something called life force healing, which taught me how to feel energy in bodies. Shot me out into the ozone. I became so psychic, I knew what animals and plants were thinking. It was like way out there.
No wonder
And,
that little light is coming right into your head.
right into my head. But I do see there's a light up there.
Okay.
Not a God light, a light light. Um, anyway, so from there, I've done all kinds of stuff. I still do matrix energetics all the time, but I've done Reiki and breath work and life force healing and matrix energetics. And, so I do all kinds of stuff.
Wow, that's amazing. So I didn't realize that you hadn't really worked much as a nurse. You kind of went
Not too long. I worked several years.
several years. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you kind of went by desperation into homeopathy and then this all alternative thing. But you were kind of against it intellectually in the beginning. Um,
Yeah.
what were you had this inkling of like, I'm going to be a nurse. What do you think you wanted to accomplish as you started going down this alternative road? Oh, you just kind of went for it right away. It sounds like, even though you would come from I don't think homeopathy has any kind of merit.
I think it was so miraculous to me for my own life that I called it a mind bend. It was like a 180-degree turn from an experience. And then, it's just like, it just opened my eyes that there's another way of healing. There's a completely different understanding of the life force and what it is that really heals us, and healing the whole rather than the parts. Traditional medicine is just about curing the symptoms, which isn't really curative, or suppressing the symptoms, which isn't really curative. It doesn't bring you back into balance. It doesn't help you find homeostasis or, bring any joy or happiness. And at least it's not part of the healing. And I don't know, it was just such a mind bend. I couldn't go back.
Yeah. So, wow. And so then you were on this new journey and,
Although I love the science of medicine. I love it. When I walk in the hospital, I feel like I'm home. And I have dreams that I'm back in the hospital and I just have to work in the hospital. And, I loved working in ICU and CCU. I loved knowing about blood gases and what the livers and the kidneys and the lungs are doing. And I just loved all of that. And I love that matrix energetics combines them.
yeah.
There's this understanding of science and there's an understanding of spirituality, and because I love the mystical path too. I love mysticism. So it really pulls it together. And I really think science and religion do go hand in hand. They're both the study of God,
Yeah.
And, you learn a lot by looking at the material world about what the creator is.
Yeah. Yeah. You said that really well. Yeah. And it's interesting you had that like abrupt turn when you had the experience of homeopathy. And then a week ago or so, we talked about popping into an alternate reality. And homeopathy, the way you described it, it's kind of like you took a little something and it popped you into a reality where you didn't have the eczema, where it's like, wow, all this stuff is different in your world now. And
Yeah,
and we talked about matrix energetics and and it's like it combines, because Richard Bartlett, chiropractor and naturopath, and yet studies all the spiritual stuff and has this way of playing in matrix energetics.
mm-hmm.
And then we were talking about like you put on your floor an alternate universe. What was the like, one thing I noticed about matrix energetics was I had studied a lot of stuff up until my first matrix class, and after I took my first class, it was like 5 days of 3 classes in a row, and I realized I wasn't going to do any of my other healing work. I was going to take some time and do nothing but matrix. I saw these miracles that were way beyond belief, kind of like your homeopathy story, where it's like if that can change like that, what else can change and how far can this go? And so it took me 2 years of just doing matrix. And then I came around to using everything again. But because it intrigued me that, wow, something can change that fast. Like I literally saw teeth that didn't fit together. And then after one session, her teeth could all fit together again. And
Yeah.
so stuff like that just makes you go, what? And so you had this idea a week ago to pop into a different reality. Tell us a little bit about, some people might be going like, what are you talking about? Pop into a different reality. But we both had experiences where we interacted with something, matrix energetics or homeopathy. Homeopathy for me too. I had another one with homeopathy. And it was like, oh my goodness, everything is different now. So you tell us a little bit about your motivation and your thoughts and
Well,
this last
being
week.
an alternate universe to me is just like sometimes when you look at a picture, you know, those pictures that as you stare at them, they become something else.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you're looking at something and then all of a sudden, boom, it's just not that anymore. It's something else. Or
Yeah.
maybe you held a grudge against somebody for years and years, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, it's 100% different, and you don't have the grudge anymore. It's like it's all gone. It's just like, to me, that's an alternate universe.
That is, it is, that is it. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a different reality. And if you think about the way Richard says, you know, all possibilities exist at once, and all, I mean, scientists say that too now, but the kingdom of God is within you, the universe is within you. It's in religious writings, it's in mystical writings, it's in science. It's like there's all these possibilities and they all exist at once. So if I could, like even coaches, I think you had me do it the other day. Even coaches will have you go, they'll say, okay, stand in that spot next to
Yeah.
you. And what do you feel? It's a different reality, completely different reality. So
Yeah.
it's not so weird as it sounds.
No, it's not so weird as it sounds. It's I mean, to us, it's not so weird as it sounds.
Wendy were weird.
Yeah. Wow. I want to do another of a story. What's what's some of the stuff you've seen with matrix energetics or homeopathy or any of your life force things? Something where you're looking at something and then it's like, oh my goodness, that isn't how I thought the world was. Any miracles that come to mind or anything else? You know, you had your homeopathy incident, and I know you've helped people with lots of healing on all sorts of levels from really severe traumas. You know, actually.
Yeah.
Anything that you can kind of, that you don't want to divulge private information, but anything that you can say about things, so for people that are like, you know, maybe they're dealing with something really that they haven't
I
had.
can tell you for myself, an experience like that. I was bitten by a very toxic spider and it kicked up Lyme disease. I never knew I had Lyme disease. I was tolerating it, I guess, like I could maintain balance because of homeopathy and the way I eat and whatever. But that amount of poison, just my immune system couldn't handle it. And I was so sick. My husband literally told my kids I would die. He really thought I would die. And for 3 months, I just got worse and worse and worse. And so I did all kinds of things to get better. I did homeopathy. I did what does he call it? Hemographic biological medicine. That was Dr. Biggleson. He's passed away now. You know, and I did tons of my own energy work, and I wrote and I prayed and I meditated and I journaled. And, you know, sometimes it would be like, this is the most incredible thing that ever happened to me in my life. There's no sickness, there's just opportunity. Like it handed me this huge opportunity for growth. And other times I'd be like, oh, am I ever going to get well? Because it took me months to even be able to walk because my knee was so swollen. But
Wow.
that was pretty miraculous, really, for me to experience that there is no illness. And I don't know if that is really what you were talking about, but it was pretty dramatic.
Yeah. 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 It reminds me a little bit about like when I had that 2 years of not being able to run, and I hadn't realized it was fluoride being put in the water in San Diego that was causing all this bone pain and depression and all sorts of stuff. And I was just starting to get well, no, let's see, 11, 12. I was barely starting to get well. I don't know if I had figured it out yet. I think I was still, no, I hadn't figured it out yet. Um, but but I was trying to still run a little bit. It was like, but anyway, I think I figured out that fluoride was the issue. So we got filters for the house in San Diego, and I wasn't dying anymore, but I still had severe bone pain. So I was like still limping around trying to run. And I remember we had this is an interesting story. We had a class that was scheduled, matrix energetics in Seattle in December of 2012. Can you imagine December 2012, the supposed like change of everything. And so we thought, well, we're going to visit Portland, Oregon, and we'll fly into Portland, and we'll take a train to Seattle, take the class, then we'll take a train to Vancouver, British Columbia, and visit friends, and then we'll fly back. And the night before we left, I got a call from our friend Esther, who is a acupuncturist in San Diego, our acupuncturist and friend, and she said, I just met an amazing homeopath in this is like a homeopathic advertisement, amazing homeopath named Malcolm Smith. And he just did a presentation at Louise Hay's condo. She was friends with Louise Hay. And he said, you have got to see this guy. He's incredible. So I looked at some of the stuff she talked about, and it's like, well, okay, I'll call him. So I called him, and he picked up the phone. He's like, hello? Like, hello? So Malcolm Smith. And so he's a wonderful guy. And he said, well, just come by the office on Sunday when you get here to Portland, and I'll do a session for you. And so I thought, okay, great. And so that night I had the worst earache ever. And so bad, it was so clogged up. I told Jen, I was so mad. I said, I can't go. I can't get on a plane. This is going to blow out my ear. I said, you're going to just have to go by yourself. You go have fun. I'm going to just stay here. And I just went to bed. And a few hours later, I woke up, when it was time for them to go. And I thought, I think I can go. It feels better. I can do it. So I got on a plane and I left, and I went into to my appointment the next day when I was on Sunday. We got there on Saturday, and I was walking around Southeast Portland, and it was just, for me, beautiful. It was drizzly, and it was Sunday morning, and people were going out and getting their coffee, and little sidewalks and trails everywhere. And I thought, oh God, I wish I could live in a place like this. And I just let it go. And I went into Malcolm's office, and I told him the story about almost not making it. He goes, oh, this happens a lot. People will cancel their appointment before their first session a lot. And he says, what happens is you're coming right to the door where you're going to go through this huge transformation where your ego is going to be dissolved. And your ego says, no matter what, you don't go in here. So they come up with all sorts of reasons. Sometimes people will blame other people and turn it into a big victim thing. Other times people will just like have an accident or some kind of thing that makes it where they don't go do this one thing that will get them this transformation. And he says, that's what happens to a lot of people. And so I told him it was like 2.5 hour session, and he just asked tons and tons and tons and tons of questions. And then he started laughing, and he said, oh, dude, this thing is going away. This is like gone. And he gave me my remedy, and it was, I'm not going to tell you the remedy. I'll tell you later if you want. But he gave me the remedy, and then he told me, you know what it means? First he asked me, what do you think you are? You think you're an animal, a plant, or a mineral? Because he has a certain system from Mumbai in homeopathy that classifies them like that. I said, I think I'm a lion. I think I'm a predator. And we kind of went through. He goes, well, you're kind of right, but it's this one. And so he gave me my remedy, and there it was December of 2012. And so then by that April, the next April, and then we also took matrix energetics. So that's also another level of like, whoa. But I went the next April, my friend Ben, who gave me the remedy for fluoride, he said, hey, I saw this old article from this osteopath in Australia that if you take borax, the laundry aid, it's the mineral tetraboron. You take a little bit of that with magnesium and it detoxes fluoride. So I did it, and 3 days later, I was back to running, pain-free. And so I thank Ben for that, my Feldenkrais practitioner, runner friend. And so I had got my health back, but we also realized that the research showed that there's a 600% increase in bone cancer in little boys that are raised in areas that have fluoride. So we're like, well, let's get out of here. So we looked, and the Pacific Northwest is full of towns that don't fluoridate. And so we thought we're going to go live in Oregon. So by April, my friend Ben told me about cob houses, and he had gone to a workshop in Ashland, Oregon to build cob houses. And in one moment, Jen and I said, we're shutting everything down. We're going to sell everything, and we're going to go to Portland, and then go to Ashland, Oregon, and go build a house, and then we're going to figure out where to put our earthen house. In a second, we decided to spend thousands of dollars, shut everything down. So from that moment in December, when I had this like thought of like, man, I'd sure like to live in a place like this, and a remedy, and then Matrix Energetics, very quickly I got my health back, and I got this epiphany, and we were out of there. And it wasn't all gumdrops and fairy tales, at that point. It's like there was a process, but it was literally another alternate universe. And then I got, all sorts of stuff happened here, but now I get to do healing work with people from all over the world. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is way cooler than anything I could have imagined. And I thought it with a little just like, God, it'd be so good to live in a place like this, and let it go. And then a little remedy of some information, which is so interesting because another homeopath, Dr. Dooley, which if you don't know, Dr. Tim Dooley from San Diego, amazing MD and ND and homeopath, he did a thing where my PR person said, go see Dr. Dooley. You could go meditate with him, but you got to go see him first. And so we were doing a lot of PR and thought, okay, I'll go meet this medical doctor person. And he did 2 hours with me for free, asking me all these questions. And then he whispered one mantra in my ear, and he told me what it meant. And it was the exact same meaning as that homeopathic remedy many, many years later. And so, so it's kind of interesting how there's a bit of information that when you get it, like when you got that information about homeopathy and it was a big turn where you couldn't be different, you couldn't go back to the other way. There's a way to pop into an alternate universe, literally, that we've both experienced. And so I want to explore like your thoughts around like how people, like if anybody wants to work with Leslie, just go work with Leslie. Go find her, Leslie Platner. We'll put her tag in there, and me, Ralph Havens, and just go find us. And there's lots of offerings we have for people to at any levels to kind of come into our world and play in this. But anything you can tell people right now that could get them play with this idea, and what you did this last week to be in an alternate universe, anything that comes to mind that you want to talk about with Matrix or homeopathy or alternate universes or possibilities?
Yeah, I can just tell you a little bit about, it won't take forever, but
Mine
the
took forever.
that I did. No, I'm not saying that I didn't mean anything against
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Okay. We had talked last week about abundance and giving more to get more and being in that state of flow. And there's a quote that I've told you about before about being like a spring that's continually giving, but continually being refilled. So it gives without fear of poverty, and it is refilled by a divine invisible source. So just that idea of abundance. And
I love it.
I was reading Debbie Ford's book, The Dark Side of the Light Chaser, which is really hard to read.
I do remember that book. She was married, I think, to my friend in San Diego, Dr.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, it's hard to read because you have to face your own ego.
Okay.
But, and to accept it. Like, it's kind of like the yin and the yang, the dark and the light. You can't run away from the parts you don't like. And so I ended up feeling like, okay, I am loving, caring, generous, compassionate, good enough. And I'm also selfish, bitchy, envious, discourteous, fearful, angry, and not good enough. But I'm all of it. Like it's okay to accept all of yourself, because then you're not hiding from anyone.
Not hiding.
Even yourself. And then things just roll off your back. It's like, well, yeah, I am that, but I'm also that. It's like there's a balance. So that was powerful.
To hide something.
Yeah, she talks about how you have things about yourself you don't want anybody else to see, and you don't want to see them. So you have to hold this thing behind your back and make sure nobody sees it and that you never look at it, and how much energy that takes. But if you can just say, yeah, I am that, and I'm also the good side too, and just the whole of it, how much more energy you have. So that was my first day. And then
oh wow,
the idea of giving and receiving and being more in a flow in my faith background, there's not tithing, but there's the opportunity to give like 19% of what you don't need to this fund. And the fund is used to take care of people all over the world who need, there's projects and things all over the world to help people. So I did that. I figured out my taxes. So I figured out everything that I used for entertainment, which I figured I didn't need. And I gave, the 20% is easier. I just figured out 20%. And I gave it to that fund just as a way of opening that flow. And then it's really a way of blessing the money that you receive, from God. It's giving to others too. And then I really worked on my office, which I haven't had energy to do. And because we moved quite a while ago, but we've been carrying stuff around in boxes. And so I worked on emptying a lot of those boxes and emptying filing cabinets and arranging these huge cupboards that I have over here. Arranging the inside so I can actually use them, because there's a desk in there and I want to be able to use it. So that was fun. That was creative. And then I had this goal still of going on Facebook and making a video. And I had it on my schedule to do it, and it didn't happen that day. But I did have a really deep conversation with my husband that day. So that was like part of that abundance too, I think. And then I had a dream of a baby who was born without a connection, like the umbilical cord wasn't connected somehow. And that seemed significant. Like I didn't necessarily do the things that I was going to do, but I'm working on the inner part of me. Like, what doesn't feel connected? What doesn't feel connected to source, so that I can give and receive completely, and then I noticed on the 6th day that I have this feeling all the time of there's never enough time, like for everything that I want to do. But I don't want to get up and rush. I don't want to push and rush and try to get all these things in. So if I'm in a parallel universe, then what would be different? If I could step into an alternate universe, and how would I see that not enough time differently? So this seemed really, this is a big one. Like, so this thought came to my mind. There's a quote: "Where there's love, nothing is too much trouble, and there's always time." So that's really a big thing about love, which is kind of like that baby in the umbilical cord. Where there's love, nothing is too much trouble, and there's always time. And then the idea that the past, the present, and the future, all in relation to God, are equal. Today, yesterday, and tomorrow do not exist in the sun. So in the source, in the sun, in the source of days, there is no time, or to God, there's no time. And so when I went to look up those quotes to make sure that I had them right, I came across Will Hewitt. And I don't know if you've seen, he did a TED Talk, but he's a vocalist and is a transformational coach and a CEO coach. He helps people bridge to their deepest commitment to work. Oh. So he committed to sing 15 minutes a day. And he sings in these made up languages and stuff. It's interesting. But he said, so he did this TED Talk, and he said, I really wondered whether I could fit it into my day, 15 minutes of singing every day. But here's what happened. It was like my whole concept of time turned inside out. It was like, instead of wedging something in, this practice became like a generational center for my day. It was like a fire that the rest of the day gathered around. So I don't know, that all just seemed like I was just getting answers to, and I don't know how to practice it yet, but answers to how does love and doing something you love, like singing, how does time revolve around that? How can there be enough time for everything and nothing is too much trouble if you're connected to love? And love seems like being, like truly to be connected to love seems like that spring that's eternally giving. It's full to overflowing. Nothing is missing. There's no grasping because it's so connected to the source. And I also thought of a quote about being like a hollow reed, where the pith inside of it is drilled out so that it becomes a hollow reed for the creator to play. There's So you with that, and then I thought about, I could actually feel like the sense of the rush of the breath of God going through you, but how you have to open to that. Like it's hard to let go of your ego to that point, to be ego less, to be that channel of whatever God wants you to do, to be like that spring that's eternally giving and eternally receiving. So I don't know, that's where I got to, and I don't know how.
God, I think I'm going to start doing my exercise of alternate universe and journaling when it comes to me. This sounds great.
Yeah, it was. So I don't know how that's going to be practically. You know, I did get some practical things done. I've had more energy. I had a really deep talk with my husband. I cleaned out my closet and I bought a new desk and I'm rearranging so I can use my office better. But and then there's all those also, like it's a little scary, the demand of facing the ego, like from the dark side of the light chaser, but then not beating yourself up because you have ego, negative aspects of the ego, but embracing it. Like, yes, I am a bitch sometimes. And yes, I'm a saint sometimes. And it doesn't matter if everybody sees that. And then I'm free. So that was my week. That was my alternate universe week.
Oh, and what was that quote about what love is? Is like it
Oh, that where there's love, nothing is too much trouble, and there's always time.
nothing is too much for long. There's always time.
And
Wow.
that, and kind of like time is an illusion, because sometimes I remember to ask for rubber time. If I have too much to do, I say, okay, I need rubber time, and time stretches and I get 1,000 things done in 5 minutes. And you know, it's like time isn't real.
Time.
Yeah, time isn't real.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's where I am at the moment. And I've had some fun things with healing. Somebody was having seizures and I worked on them from a distance. And I didn't start out on their head. I started out with where all, there was just like gunky. They had had so many seizures, bad ones. And there's just all this like just gunky energy that needed to be cleared out first. And then I found myself working on the brain, and I could feel the signals going across the center of the brain, the corpus callosum. And is that what, did I say that right? Yeah. um, and then I just saw their brain calming down in their whole spinal column. Like it just seemed clear. They haven't had any seizures since. And it's been 4 days, but I mean, they may have seizures again. But that, and then today I was working on somebody's hip, and she's afraid she'll have to have a hip replacement. And again, it cleared out a whole bunch of gunk. But then it went to the physical, and I really felt the focus on the end of the greater trochanter, like healing it, and the hip socket. And I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. But it was super fun, like from the physical to the spiritual. I just love that we can access all those realms.
Yeah, me too. And yeah, it's so that's why I went 2 years with just matrix energetics, because it was like, wow, what else is possible? But then it's kind of cool to realize you can still use all of your skills. And yeah, you and I have both experienced stuff that seems impossible. And
Yeah.
and so yeah, I one thing I want to one thing I noticed is that when people interact with you, with me, with this work, they can be different, even just sitting there in their chair, seeming to not do anything. And um, and one of the things that happens with matrix energetics is Richard Bartlett would do a lot of teaching on stage about stuff, but really where we were getting it was by soaking in it, by being in that space. And one of my teachers, Christian Michelson, teaching the instant miracle technique and peace process and some other healing techniques, people would come up to the microphone and ask him, but how do you do it? And he didn't know how to do it. He didn't have any words about how to do it. He didn't have any words about how to do it or why it would work, or any words at all. He just kept saying, just keep hanging out and you're going to get this. And you know, it's a different way of playing when you play with the stuff that you're playing with and I'm playing with the stuff we play with. And play is the operative word, I think, is like there's a way to play with reality that can have some really positive effects in the physical world And I think we are playing with love. Like my friend who, friend and client, I haven't talked to him in a long time, but one of his older relatives was passing away and she kept coming to, and she said, "Hey, is so-and-so here?" I said, "Yes, he's right here," the grandson. And she would just come to and be all radiant and say, "It's all love. It's all love." And then she would pass out and then she would be like, about to pass on. And then she would come back and like, "Hey, is so-and-so here?" He's like, "Yeah, he's right here. It's all love. It's all,"
Yeah.
and it's like, it's a nice idea and it's a nice thought. And isn't that a nice metaphysical, nice positive affirmation to think? But it's like, there's something different that you get when you interact with this work that's, that doesn't fit into, it could fit into some of the physics, but even that, who knows for sure. And so one thing I invite people to do is to notice how you feel after watching me and Leslie seemingly just have a conversation with a big light beam coming out of her head. So, because it's like people can be different right from this. And if you didn't notice or look, would you notice? And I have the story of a woman who, when we first moved to town, she was, she's a practitioner, but we had met her and we had kids the same age. And so she was visiting and I was about to go to work and I took Yoda. I took this guy, I put him in my backpack. I take Yoda with me. And she goes, "Well, you're taking Yoda to work?" And I said, "Yeah, you want to see how it works?" And I did a little technique. It took me I told her to like test her neck, how it feels. And then I did a little manipulation on Yoda. And I said, "Recheck." And it was like, she was like, "Oh my goodness, it's looser." And then she started to what I call autocorrect. She says, "Well, it's probably because I just tested it. So it's probably just looser because I moved it." And so we thought, okay. So I went to work. And like not even a week later, she was talking to us and she goes, her grandma paid off all of her debt. And her grandma wasn't that type of person. And she said, "Nobody ever, ever, ever has ever given me any money for anything."
Wow.
And Jen and I looked at each other like, uh-huh, because we knew that she had interacted with this stuff that, like Yoda says, the force. And could we tell her, "Oh, it's because Ralph did this"? No, it couldn't tell her that. And who knows what it's really all about. But something magical really does happen on so many levels for so many people. And so what I would just encourage people to do is to consider that maybe there is an alternate universe where you're getting a version of life that works better for you. And that might be a nice thing just to kind of like put out there, is like, there might be a possibility of that. And one
And
of
it's super easy. Like all you have to be, like Richard Bartlett says all the time, just be willing. Open the door a crack for the universe. Just, I'm willing to experience something different in this moment. You open the door and miracles can happen.
yeah
Really miracles can happen in a second, just by that willingness to open the door a crack. Even if you don't believe it, you could say, "Well, I'm willing to try it," or "I'm willing to be willing to try it." It's like,
yeah
the universe doesn't need much to help you.
Yeah, and one of the cool things is if you're checking before and after, like we do, practitioners that check before and then check afterwards, we get a lot of confirmation that, "Oh my goodness, that really works." "Oh my goodness, that works again." "Oh my goodness, this always works on something." And so we get a lot of reality in that. And it's kind of fun to start to play in that world, because you can start to realize maybe you do have a lot more access to the infinite. And yeah, I think that's a good thing, that alternate universe. Maybe it's not so much, maybe it's different, like Richard. Anyway, yeah. But I want to encourage people to like look you up, Leslie Platner, look me up, Ralph Havens, and we'll put
Be sure to look up Ralph too. No, they already are knowing you.
look us both up. We're going to put this on both of our Facebooks and YouTubes and all that stuff. And we'll do more of these things. And if you like this, if you thought it was useful, click heart. That always helps more people see it. Plus, we like to see it. And click share. It takes one click, to click share, and it might help somebody. So if it made a difference for you, if you feel, "Wow, that's different. I feel different somehow," pay attention, notice what you notice, and share this with people.
Thanks, Ralph. I have no idea how we connected, because I don't remember meeting you at Matrix, even though we were probably at almost everything together. But
Yeah.
I'm really glad that I found you somehow on Facebook and we started working together. He's a great coach, guys, if you need a coach. Yeah, I've really appreciated hanging out with you.
Me too. Me too. We're going to do a lot more together. So yeah, so this has been awesome. I'm going to go ahead and do our little click off in a second. So let's get out there and heal yourself and heal the world. Click like and share and spread the love. Okay.
Bye.